Mr. Shiver, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Leeson.
Here.
Commissioner Lewis.
Here.
Commissioner Long.
Here.
Commissioner McLaren.
Here.
Commissioner McVeigh. Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
Commissioner Tetrick.
Here.
Commissioner Watson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, we've all had a chance to read the meetings from the last meeting. We have a motion for approval.
With one correction, please.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. They should be planning commission minutes instead of minutes.
Very well. Okay, with that correction, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, let's go to item number 3, new business. Mr. Shiver, do you like to introduce that, please?
Sure. This one is for 1305 South Emporia. Most of you may remember this. I'll go through a brief history. They had originally applied for a 30 by 60 accessory structure with an awning totaling 1,960 square feet of garage space with a 14-foot high sidewall. The zoning ordinance requires in an accessory structure anything above 1,200 square feet in total area or above 12 feet at the sidewall to have a special use permit. So on June 28th, we held a public hearing to review the application. The planning commissioners present voted 5-0 to recommend denial of it, citing a number of reasons from overall size and height, location on the property, appearance, land uses in previous cases. All those details were in the minutes that you just reviewed. After that meeting, the Fritchies, the applicants, submitted a letter proposing a smaller building based on the feedback of the planning commission. On July 11th, the City Commission reviewed the case. On July 17th, it went to the meeting. They reviewed the letter and decided to vote to send it back to the Planning Commission to review the new proposed building, the smaller building. It was scheduled for July 26th Planning Commission. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum that night, so we canceled the meeting. And here we are tonight on August 23rd to review the updated proposal. The updated plan, as you saw in my memo and plans, 30 by 50 with no awning for a total of 1,500 square feet, about 300 square feet above the threshold. They've reduced the sidewall height from the original 14 feet to 13 feet, which is still 1 foot above the 12-foot requirement for the special use permit. And at this time, I'd like to invite Tim and Sonia Fritchie to address you guys and give you some more information on the updated proposal.
Okay, with that, we're going to open the public meeting, open the public. So, Mr. Fritchie, come on up, please.
I'm Tim and Sonia Fritchie, and
1305 South Emporia. As Jay pretty much outlined, that's kind of our new proposal at this point in time. I'll kind of open it to you guys if you have any questions.
Any questions?
I believe I do.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I guess we have no questions. I guess your letter was pretty thorough, explained everything
Try to.
to us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, would anyone else like to speak to this issue? Please come to the podium and give us your name.
hi, I'm Sherry Adelsberger. I'm here on behalf of Don Adelsberger, who couldn't be here tonight. He did send his comments by way of notes that I'm going to read to you, and then I'll try and answer any questions that you have. His first comment, the building will still be approximately 20 feet tall, including the foundation and the gable roof. It is in an R1 zone, and this type of building is not allowed in any other part of town in an R1 zone. It's to be constructed on an adjoining lot next to his home. His property is Lot 1, Block F, and his building will be on Lot 9, Block A. His point there was that there are two separate deeds to these two properties, and he's kind of wondering what would prevent them from selling the house and the building individually to two different people, or keeping one and selling the other somewhere down the road. The average size of the storage building in the neighborhood is 10 to 15 feet. It will devalue all other property in the area. And the neighbors wouldn't allow the duplexes. Why would they allow a steel building? I had just a few other comments to add. I researched the property taxes in this area on that block. The vacant lots are bringing you about $270 a year for taxes. The lots with houses on them are bringing anywhere from, your property taxes are bringing in anywhere from $2,300 to $3,900 a year. So if these lots are never able to be sold, which I believe that putting a big metal building in a residential neighborhood is going to make it hard to sell these lots, then that's tax revenue lost. Also, the average size, this steel building is going to be 1,500 square feet. The square footage of the homes on that block are anywhere from 1,118 square feet to, on a single level, the largest home on a single level is 1,496 square feet, so just under that size of this building. There is one home on that block that's 1,558 square feet, but that's 2 levels, so that's 780 square feet a level. So this building is going to be considerably, I mean, not considerably, but it's still going to be larger than most of the homes on the block. There's no metal out there. The homes are wood with brick and composition roofs. And as I drove around and looked out there, I didn't go searching anybody's backyard to verify my facts, but as I looked, the storage buildings that people have out there are wood and composition shingles. They don't even, I couldn't find even a small metal storage building out there. So I don't know if that's the case, but that's, I guess that's all I have. And thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Larissa Lewis, 1260 South Emporia. We live 2 lots down and across the street. We are completely okay with them building this. It has nothing to do with the payback of the duplexes. Duplexes would have been a wholly different issue. This is their lot. They take very good care of their property. They've taken very good care of the property next to them that they have. Unlike the empty lots that are not taken care of, the brand new house on the corner that's not taken care of, the house on the corner on Topeka that's not taken care of. This issue is not about the size of this building. The issue is this building will be fine. They will take good care of it. It will fit into the community. We will have no problem with that.
Thank you.
So you got those slides,
Which ones?
the ones I sent you.
Slides?
Yeah,
I do.
pictures, the pictures.
Oh, they're in the packet.
They're in the
Your new
packet,
site
okay.
plans and stuff. Yeah, they're in the agenda packet.
So, just to kind of address a couple things, one of the reasons we wanted to downsize, obviously for the shed, was for the simple fact of the height requirements that the building, when we first had looked at it. I had actually worked with my contractor on this, and we actually took measurements. And as you guys can see, our top peak from 18 to 16 and a half high, even with a 14 foot, we would have still been well below that level. Even with a 4 or 6 inch floor, and we're only needing a 4 foot pour on the floor. So you're going to see the rooftop of our house. You're going to see the rooftop of the house behind us actually driving down there. I've also incorporated, if I needed to, I'm willing to put a couple of trees up on the other side of my building as I put it up to kind of help block that. There's already a couple of trees there, but I'd be willing to do a couple more on my end just to make sure that that looks good. The pictures that I have in there, to Mrs. Lewis's point, I did some homework on you want to start talking, if we want to talk about anesthetics, we want to start looking about how things look. My first, when we started talking about the duplexes almost 6-8 months ago, that was a totally separate issue. But the gentleman that came down here with Mr. Adelsberger and was discussing the fact of the duplexes and how they would be maintained, did build a house up there on the far end of the truck route. They're off Santa Fe and Terrace. As you can see in the pictures, this is how this house typically looks when, on any given day, about once every 4 to 6 weeks they mow the yard. That's what we were trying to keep away from our neighborhood when we actually voted down the duplexes. And my wife and I were both part of that as well. We wanted something nice in our neighborhood. We didn't want something that would attract a lot more of negative attention. The house down on Finney and Topeka, another thing that was brought up in I believe in the June session here was the fact that I park my stuff out into my lot, which, by the way, that lot will become part of 1305 South Emporia. We will do an amendment to make that one property. It will not be 2 lots. It will be one. If it ever gets sold, it'll be sold as 1 lot. But to my point, this gentleman parks his Lexus down there every day. You can drive down there now. His Lexus will be sitting in the yard. Grass, again, gets as tall. Windows broken out of the home. There's a lot of aesthetics there that really could be brought up and brought to someone's attention, but that's not what I'm here tonight for. But I wanted to point that out. This isn't in our neighborhood. This is in this area. So I just wanted to make that really clear. The other fact is I can build a 1,500 square foot building. I don't need to get a permit for that. The other thing that will happen is I will be working with the city to get to find out exactly what I can do as far as putting a separate awning on the side of my shed, so I'm going to be able to put my camper in there. So that I want to make that clear to even Mrs. Adelsberger that a shed will be there. I mean, it's going to be evident. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this topic? All right, we're going to close the discussion of the public then, and any discussion among the commissioners. Now's the time.
Jay, regarding the common property line between the two, will that be a requirement of the building permit to have that removed off the map?
It's like kind of a 2-step process. Basically, I'll explain that. One way is that the county will combine them in all their GIS records for taxing purposes, GIS purposes, and that we use that. The second is that the zoning ordinance classifies 2 types of lots in the city. One is a lot of record, which is what was happened when it was subdivided and platted. Due to the age of a number of plats in the city going back long before 1950 and a number of lots being small, we also have what's called a zoning lot. If it meets the definition of that, then that's how we combine it to the city. So basically, if it's a contiguous parcel, it's the same ownership, we can consider it 1 lot. Almost every old block we have in town, and by old I mean built before 1960, every legal description is lot 1 plus 50 feet of lot 2, and lot 2 plus the east 50 feet of lot 3. So we have a lot of zoning lots. So there's no problems with that at all. It's a very simple process. It goes on every day with people buying the lot next to them when a house was torn down or splitting a lot. So no, there's no problem with that.
So are you suggesting leaving it how it is, or go to the county and have them remove it?
If they own it, then it's gonna, basically the difference of going to the county is how it shows up on GIS and tax records. If you own it and it's contiguous, we consider it 1 lot, unless specifically asked not to. There's no formal process where we have to require them to survey it or fill out a special form and there's a fee and a permit. This stuff happens so often that we don't have a long, expensive, drawn-out process.
Okay. Well, I know
it is complicated.
Well, no, it's actually pretty easy to call the county and have them remove a line.
Right, once you purchase it, yeah.
But
Yeah.
to split it again is a totally different deal, and that's a lot more difficult. And that would make it more difficult to sell one side or the other.
Right, we wouldn't allow splitting it then, if an accessory building were approved on it. Because we don't allow a single lot to be sold that's not residential in a residentially zoned area. And that's a question we do get as well, especially when a house burns down or a house is torn down and they say, well, there's still a garage on it. You know, can I sell it? What can I do with it? Can't do anything with it. Best case, a neighbor typically buys it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, did the city have an agreement with him to aesthetics, like the outside of the building and things like that, be done like the neighborhood?
My understanding that there was discussion when the subdivision was created to do an HOA. That's not the city though. I don't know if that ever followed through, but we don't have any agreements.
There was something
or
in one of
requirements.
our notes that said that they were working on that or something.
And if there is an HOA, then that's not something that we would enforce as a planning commissioner city. And we do have those subdivisions with HOAs, and I think Kelly could probably speak to that the best of us.
Yeah, if they had one, there would be stipulations like that. If they don't.
Was it gonna be, you remember in the conversation, was it gonna be a metal building, just a total metal building,
Right, yeah.
roof and side?
Which in the zoning code, there's nothing that prohibits that. All we're talking about is size.
Right. With zoning, you're looking at where it is, how big it is, how tall it is. With building codes, you're looking at the structure, how it's built, the way it's built, the codes. But we don't have any codes that dictate it has to be a certain facade or prohibits a certain facade on it.
Anyone else? No discussion? Okay.
I've got one question, but it's for, I just
Mr.
forgot
Fritchie?
your name. Fritchie Jeffers.
You want to come up to? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Why do you, I'm not trying to be nosy, but why would you need such a special use to have high sidewalls instead of what can be allowed?
Well, I think as the gentleman pointed out in June's meeting for my toys, I was told that, to house those things, which is actually my personal property, I don't look at it as my toys, to be able to maintain and keep those things secure, to be able to make sure that they fit. And my camper, again, I know this was in the minutes of June's meeting, it's 139 inches tall. That leaves me exactly 7 inches of clearance from the roof to the floor. It's the only reason I'm asking for 300 additional feet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I just have a problem with an oversized metal building being built and surrounded by wood frame homes in a neighborhood. It's my problem, and I don't know if that's where we want to head in El Dorado, if we want to start putting metal buildings throughout the neighborhoods. Maybe we do, but I have a hard time with that. Do we have a motion?
Can we speak anymore?
We've closed the meeting. I thought we had a chance. We've
Well,
already
what-
closed the meeting,
What I want to
public
say
meeting.
is El Dorado's got El Dorado Lake, and we are a recreation community, and people want to put their boats and their
Podium, please.
campers next to their house.
Come to the podium, please. Name and address for the record.
My name is Greg Lewis, 1260 South Emporia. El Dorado is a recreational community. We have the El Dorado Lake. Sure, we got places to store our stuff outside of town, but some people want to store them next to their house where they're safe. So and campers and boats are pretty good sized. We're not allowed to park them on the grass. We're not allowed to put them beside our house unless they're on concrete.
Right.
And this is just something that's happening. We need to welcome this into our community or not be a recreational community. I mean, because people want to bring their boats home. I want to bring mine home, but I can't. It sits out of town, up on the hill, because I can't put it beside my house. So that's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you. Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move to recommend approval of case number 18-03-SUP, a request by Tim and Sonia Fritchie for a special use permit to allow a 1,500 square foot accessory structure with 13-foot sidewall height on the property located at 1305 South Emporia Street for the reasons set forth in the staff recommendation heard in this public hearing with the following conditions. I'd like to see that property line removed through the county mapping department.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
And we have a second, thank you. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Leeson,
No.
Commissioner Lewis,
Yes.
Chairman Long,
No.
Commissioner McLaren,
Yes?
Commissioner Stewart,
No?
Commissioner Tetrick,
No.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
4 noes, 3 yeses. The motion to recommend denial will go to the City Commission. I will double check the date because it is usually the 3rd Monday of the month. But Labor Day is going to throw that off a little bit, so I will let you know that date.
Okay, thank you for coming. Let's move on to item number 2. Mr. Shepherd, would you introduce that, please?
Yes, sir. Hang on just a moment.
We can.
Okay, the next one is a special use permit application for another accessory structure. As we just said, anything that is above 1,200 square feet or above 12 foot at the sidewall requires special use permits. Our applicant, Mr. Randy Ewart, recently purchased 2 lots to the west of his home. I have the map up here. The homes are definitely in poor condition, and he tore those down with the intent to build a garage for his personal uses. So the size of the building he is proposing is a 40 by 80, that is 3,200 square feet with a 16-foot high sidewall. As you may have seen in my memo as a recap, the number of the homes in this area are mostly between the 730 square feet and 1,500 square foot size range, excluding Mr. Ewart's home, with the majority of those below 1,000 square feet. These 2 lots combined and cleared off, there's certainly more than enough space when we talk about setbacks, location, placement on a lot for such a building. However, as you saw in my memo, it is staff's opinion that the building size is just a little bit out of character, a little too large for the area considering the size of development in that area. We're just a little bit worried that a building of this size would dwarf the neighboring homes as well as hinder any future redevelopment in this area. So it's staff opinion to recommend denial of a building this size. I think we're obviously very open to an accessory structure, but maybe not one of this size in our opinion. So at this time, the applicant, Mr. Randy Ewart, is here, and I'd like to invite him up to address the board.
Good evening, thank you.
I'm not much of a public speaker. Never been to one of these deals before, but if everybody keep an open mind with me just for a few minutes. I understand you just don't like metal buildings. I didn't really hear a reason why.
I don't.
I did hear him say that you really don't have a code against metal buildings per se, but you just personally don't care for them, I take it.
I don't think they belong oversized metal buildings.
Okay. Well, that being said, one of the reasons I'm asking for such an oversized building is I've got a huge motorhome and a 27-foot trailer I pull behind it. I've got to say that it's probably one of the nicer setups in town, if you ever see it. And right now it's sitting beside my house, taking a whooping from the weather and elements, I'd kind of like that gentleman, I'd like to protect my investment. And I really don't want to entrust my bus out there, out by the lake in some lean-to pole barn. There's no security there. Anyway, and then I've got several show cars that I show that I'm just like to have extra room, unclutter my garage. I've already got it in my house. It's basically what I'm asking for is just kind of open things up for me a little bit. My house is huge compared to the neighborhood, but it is the oldest house in town. It's an old apartment house. You probably know which one I live in. It's a big 3-story house on Taylor with the big columns and the dragon in the yard. If you don't know about that house, you ain't from El Dorado. Anyway, I did already tear down these 2 slums that were behind me. I had to put up with that for 30 years. Crack deals, trash, you name it. It was an eyesore for at least 30 years. I've been in my place for 35. I've complained, nothing ever got done. I decided to tear them down, improve the area, okay? And keeping with the structure of my place, with the columns and everything, I'm gonna build the most beautiful structure you see in that whole area, that whole neighborhood. I'm gonna put Roman columns in the front of it, trees, you name it, whatever you want, privacy fence, the whole bit, wrought iron. I'm spending a bunch on this thing. I'm already into it for 22 grand, just tearing the slums down and you know, buying the properties first, then the expense of tearing them down. Got it all cleared out. Already been getting responses from the neighborhood people saying, man, we're sure glad you did that. It looks better already, you know. It's kind of a depressed neighborhood, if you're aware of that area. I don't know, you got any questions for me? Shoot, I mean, I'm just rambling on.
Okay, thank you, we will. Okay, commissioners, any questions for Randy?
Do you have to have a height because of the bus?
Yes, sir, my bus is 12 foot tall.
12 foot.
Yes, sir. That's pretty standard height for a motorhome. It's 40 foot long, my bus is 40 foot long, 12 foot tall. My trailer I pull behind, it's a stacker, I haul 2 cars in it, it's 12 foot tall, 27 foot long. It's a train, it's 67 foot long total, but it's legal length.
Do you have to have 4 foot higher walls and that?
Well, I don't know much. I mean, we started out, my builder's right here, Brad Kuhl. I wanted a 14 foot door so I'd have clearance for the 12 foot bus. And man, I mean, I don't know that much about sizes. I could probably get by with a 13 foot door if they make them. I don't know if they do or not. And a 14 foot sidewall doesn't seem like it's high enough for a 14 foot door. I mean, it seemed to me like you'd have to go the next size higher to incorporate a 14 foot door. That's the only reason we came up with the 16 foot sidewall bit. I mean, if I could.
You're asking for a 2 foot clearance on your bus.
Well, I mean, I could go less than that, just so it clears, just so I can get it inside. That's the main thing. You know, I'm flexible as far as the dimensions goes, so long as I mean, I could build a 10 foot wide by 70 foot long building to get my bus in there, but with no room to walk around in there or change a tire or do anything. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I kind of like to have a little room to breathe, an extra room for my cars. And hell, I've got a 30-foot limousine that I'm wanting to start a limo business with. Kind of like to get it out of the weather. You know, people don't want to hire limos when they got hail dings all over them and what have you. Anyway, like I say, that's where the dimensions came from. And I mean, with the 2 lots, I'm more than within the setbacks and stuff like Jay pointed out. I mean, it's a huge lot. I really don't think it'll be an eyesore in the neighborhood. If nothing else, I think it'll be a jewel in the neighborhood. If you look at some of the homes that's on that neighborhood, and, you know, quite frankly, too, I mean, I don't think a person ought to be punished for the size of other people's homes. You know, I mean, y'all believe in the American dream, don't you? That's kind of pursuing the American dream, being able to build what you want and afford what you want, and everything like that, regardless of what the neighbors are living in. You know, if we're all going to settle on what's around the neighborhood and stuff like that, then I might have to start chopping my house up and sectioning it out. I got 4,500 square foot, my place. Everybody else is a third of that. You know. Anyway.
Any other questions for Mr. Ure from the commissioners? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'd like to open it to the public. Anyone else like to come up and speak to this issue?
Larissa Lewis, 1260 South Emporia. I don't understand the whole metal building thing. We have a metal building a block away from us in our area. It fits in just fine, looks very nice. It's very, very well kept. So I would support Randy too. I don't think you get to do the personal thing about metal buildings, especially with the size. If you look down a block from us, a block south from us, there is a building just like we're talking about. And it fits in just fine and it looks really nice. It's gotta be better than the thing we have on the corner of Topeka and Finney. It's gotta be better than the brand new building on the corner of the traffic way. I'm sorry, but I don't think you get to do a personal opinion about metal buildings in the community.
Anyone else like to speak?
I would. I don't think it's a personal thing with metal buildings. It's a personal thing with oversized metal buildings. That's the deal. It's bigger than what our restrictions allow. In that metal building down the street, I drove by and took pictures, and to me that does stick out. That sticks above the house.
Do you live in our neighborhood?
No.
That's correct.
But I'm on the
But
planning
how did
commission.
that get passed?
I wasn't here.
That would be my question. How did that metal building get passed and these aren't getting passed? I think I have a brief understanding of why, but I'm just telling you, it was a personal opinion. Bert said it was Brad said it was a personal
Then he
opinion.
also said it was oversized, is what he said.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing. Any discussion among the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, if I may speak up for just a minute. This case was scheduled for last month, and so I forgot to mention during my report. We did hear from 3 people. One of those was a letter that was included in your agenda packet supporting the big building. I also received 2 others. One was a call and one was a walk-in. Jane Persons lives on 3rd Street, called to say that she opposed it because of the size, but she was not able to attend the meeting. The other person was a walk-in. I have their name and information. They asked to stay anonymous, but they also opposed it because of the size. And they asked me to pass it along.
Sure, come on up.
Well, unfortunately, I don't get to face my accusers on that, but anyway, all I was gonna tell them, if they would have appeared, if it was that important to them, and they would have appeared.
As I understand
I was just
it-
gonna ask them basically, is the side of my new building gonna be obtrusive to them, or would they prefer I put the 2 slums back together that they've been looking at for the last 40 years?
Mr. Ewart, I don't represent them, and I
Oh,
understand
okay.
that 2 of them had some health problems and just couldn't travel well.
I see.
So I'm just
Well, that's-
relaying the comments.
Sorry to hear that, but that's basically the way I feel about it. It's a huge improvement over what we've been looking at. That's my point.
Greg Lewis, 1260 South Emporia. Okay, for the size of his building that he has there, if he added a small apartment inside of it, it would change the focus of that building. It would turn it into a house and not a metal shed. So the only thing you would have to do is add an apartment to it, and it would come in as a house.
It's a bit more than that. It would have to be a home with a garage, not just an apartment with a kitchen or a room in it. I've spoken with our building official. Occasionally when we do have a request for a larger accessory structure, if the odds don't look good, we frequently hear I will build a house with a large garage and store my goods. So it's a topic that's been explored by our building official with the building code. It would have to meet the requirement of a home. That means there's minimum square footage for utility areas, kitchen areas, living areas, and bedroom areas. So it wouldn't be just a small
What
apartment.
would the minimum square feet that he would have to turn?
I'm not the building official, but tonight we're just talking about the building though.
Okay.
Now, if it gets denied, Mr. You and I and the building official, Scott Peachin, have talked about options and things like that. So,
Thank you for answering my question. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Do we have a motion?
Have we closed the public hearing yet, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I thought we did.
Okay, thank you.
I move to recommend denial of case number 18-04-SUP, a request by Andy Hewitt for a special use permit to allow 3,200 square foot accessory structure with 16-foot sidewalls on the property located at 410 and 412 North Denver Street.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion for denial. We have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Leeson,
No, or to deny.
Yes.
yes to support the
Yes.
motion? Yes. Commissioner Lewis,
No.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaren,
No.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Tetrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
5-2 to pass the recommendation to deny the special use permit. And Mr. Ewert, I will contact you once we get the city commission dates ironed out. So this will go to city commission next.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item number 3. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. All right, to mix up our agenda tonight, our next one is a rezoning request. This one is for the hatched area at 600 North Vine Street on the map there. We have two different GIS systems. Some of them showed them a couple addresses, but primarily it's 600 North Vine Street. Current zoning is R1 single-family residential, which allows single-family homes and limited institutional uses such as a school or church. The proposed zoning, I1, would allow light manufacturing, warehousing, limited retail and service uses. Basically, the intent is to permit industrial uses that are not obnoxious due to appearance, noise, emissions, or odor, and do not require intensive land coverage. Things that would meet that criteria would be in our I2 heavy industrial, which we have very little of in town. If this is approved, you'll see there to the south and to the east is some residential zoning. There's 3 homes total there. Screening would be required, whether that's a landscape berm. There's 2 different landscaping requirements for it, or an 8-foot fence that would screen the view from residential areas. This is an interesting one. The comprehensive plan calls this a neighborhood mixed use area, which can be a mix of residential and light retail uses that serve the community. Something we did as staff and put our heads together is we really looked at the development trends within El Dorado. We see a lot of retail type uses concentrating along the Main Street and West Central corridors, and we've also noticed that our truck route areas like Vine Street and 6th Street are where our industrial areas have really been concentrating, and that works really well with the truck route there. As far as other possible uses, we don't really see any future additional residential development in this area. Partially because of the zoning, the current uses, the heavy traffic along Vine Street. The 2 homes at the east, just east of there is the Walnut River floodplain area, so there's really no options for re-subdividing and building a subdivision back there. So kind of moving the non-residential uses out of the way. We also had some concerns and some doubts about the potential for commercial, such as retail uses being there, partly because of the traffic along the truck route, partly because of the views of the across the street and some of the neighboring uses. The uses in place to the north, the self-storage, the light automobile maintenance, those are all uses that are also allowed in light industrial. So, in conclusion, we feel that right now this is best suited for the light industrial zoning. You'll see the closest here is actually just to the south around the 4th Avenue and Vine Street, where we have a lot of material storage in Buckeye. And so, with that, the applicant is here tonight. If you have any questions, I know he's happy to answer those for you.
Yes, would you please come up to the front, please? Mr. Evanson?
How are you, sir?
Good. What can we do for you?
Just want to look at buying that lot. I was going to rezone it industrial to put up basically a metal building for my construction business, basically place to store equipment, have a few offices in there, things of that nature. Nothing. Everything would be real clean. The lot I'm looking at, the spot I'm looking at building, it's going to be, it's going to be completely concrete around it. All real, like I say, the privacy fence is going up. Looking to do about a 40 by 80 building, and that's kind of my only perceived use for it in the future that I see. And the one other residential next to it, that house, I believe, is getting ready to go into foreclosure, and if it would, I would highly try to purchase that too, and just go ahead and buy that and level that and get it rezoned too. So, but I guess if you
Mr.
have
Evans,
questions.
do you own this property?
I have it under contract with Mr. Danker right now, depending on the rezoning.
Okay.
For all 3 lots? All 3 lots?
Yeah, the whole next to the storage unit and then over.
Yeah.
Is Mr. Danker making this request?
You have it under contract, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's not. He's aware of it though, but Mr. Evanson's doing the request for rezoning. He has to have the property owner's permission to request it. So there's sometimes, in some cases, I think in even work with you in the past, we'll have a property owner and an applicant that are separate. It's not often, but sometimes.
He is very aware this is what I'm planning on doing with this, so.
So if this is denied, are you still going to purchase the property? Are you going to go through with the purchase?
Probably not, no. I have no use for a residential lot.
And the size of your building, you said metal building, and you've heard our discussion tonight. What is your size of your metal building?
That's also on residential area, this would be.
Yeah, this would be a primary structure in a
Industrial.
properly zoned industrial area. So.
That does change it, right?
That is correct. Yep.
I didn't hear you.
What's the
Would you,
word?
Mr.
If it's,
Patrick?
if it's industrial, which the rezoning would be, then metal buildings are allowed above the size.
Right.
What size, what are the limits?
There's
no limit?
there's a number of rules. There's no limit. If you,
Like you meet your setbacks, you're pretty much.
for example, when the city goes out and pursues a large manufacturer to come on, 100 acres, there's no,
Right.
if you can fit it and you can make it work, meet all the engineering, building code, the zoning standards, you can build it. But you would still, of course, have to provide parking and screening and appropriate utilities and all those 1,000 other things on the checklist.
The only concern I have with this is there's still those residents there, and I think the jump from R1 to I1 is kind of significant. That's just my opinion. I think if you were to own all those properties and wanted to rezone all of it, I'd be more in favor of that, because that whole area would be commercial industrial, but I have a little bit of a hang up about putting that industrial right next to somebody's house. That's just my opinion.
Well, that's a storage building right north of it, isn't it?
To the north it is, yeah. South and the east of it is still houses.
Like I say, the one
Bordered
to
up against light industrial.
Yeah.
the one
There's
to
other borders light industrial, so.
that,
You go 2 plots over, it's light industrial. It's not like,
Yeah.
that house is kind of on an island right now.
and like I say.
It is now, 'cause there used to be houses in there,
Yeah,
right?
it was.
At one time, all that vacant property, Mr. Danker tore down some houses.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, and like I said, that one to the east, it is out of short sale, moving to foreclosure right now, so,
East or south?
South.
or south, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
south.
Is it empty?
Yes, it's been
It is.
empty for 4 or 5 months now, something like that, because I believe the lady that lived there passed away, I believe. So,
And then,
if you drove by it, it's been, the grass has been growing up 3 feet in it and stuff, just not being maintained.
I'll add this here. I did speak with Robbie Pollard. He owns one of the homes back there. He does not oppose it. He couldn't make it tonight. He said he doesn't oppose it, but he did have two concerns that he discussed with us as staff members. One was just ample screening. Of course, we told him about the rules and that, you know, any approved site plans and buildings would have to have that screening in place. His second concern was just the old right-of-way that accesses those homes, and that he didn't want any future traffic, industrial traffic, to use that. In which case, we spoke with our engineer, and I think this was your plan anyways, that Vine Street's the only option for any kind of traffic.
You lost me there. You're talking about homes where to this, east?
To the east, yes. I don't
Okay.
remember exactly which one Robbie owns or lives in. It's one of those two to the east.
Okay.
That
one right there.
Is
So
it
our-
the north or south one?
It's the south one here.
Okay.
And like, I would be willing to, I mean, there's already a solid tree row line there, and I'd be willing to, I mean, plant more trees and put it to where you couldn't even see it.
And there's a chance that that may even meet the screening requirements if
Yeah.
it's thick enough. We'll have to look at that then.
Yeah, like I say, from Vine, you can't see, Robbie's land or any of that. I mean, there's a solid, like I say, there's a solid row of trees on the backside of that property.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Evans? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak to this issue? Nope. Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. Commissioners, any discussion? Well, I can see this part of the city becoming more industrialized, and I think it's, you know, the corridor there is becoming going that direction, certainly it has been to the north, and I think it's going to be to the south. And so,
I have a question, I guess. Was the idea ever brought up about making that C1 instead of I1? Was that ever discussed?
I could probably help you with that. So when he came in and he told me, described what we wanted to do as far as looking at a warehouse to park trucks, equipment, and materials, and have part of it as an office, kind of like a contractor's base of operations. It was my recommendation to do the I-1 to fit his needs. Stuff like that can sometimes, you know, I guess be considered a commercial type use in C1, but after our discussion, it was my recommendation that I-1 is best. And that's what we see a lot of on 6th Street too.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it seems like, if I may, the most obvious difference between C1 and I1 is that C1 restricts outdoor storage, unless it's for the display of merchandise.
You want to say something?
So,
I was
but just a second. So industrial, you can park outside?
yeah, you can store material and equipment
Okay.
outside. And it has more stringent screening requirements
That's
as a
what-
result.
Yeah, that's what we talked, yeah, okay.
But I-1 certainly would give him the most flexibility with equipment and or material storage and staging, rather than C1. Now, obviously, we're not here to design it for him.
Right.
Or apply the
Really?
zoning, for it. He's not asking for an apartment, so I think we're good. But I think that's the key difference, whether that's what the applicant intended or not. I'll let them speak to that, but.
Do you have something else?
Yeah, I mean,
Come on up, please.
I mean, that would be part of the plan of the shop size too, to where I could, extra lumber storage, everything could be stored indoors. There would never be equipment stored outdoors. I mean, as far as forklifts, Skytrax, I mean, skid steers, I mean, just all that stuff could be indoors whenever it has to be parked outside. So, the big reason for the sizing of the buildings and stuff, so.
And you have a construction business?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I appreciate those comments, but if we rezone this, if he were to sell it, there's no telling what the next guy does as far as storage. The whole lot could be covered with road signs, who knows what, anything. The whole lot could be covered with outside storage. Is the screen, is it required along Vine or just where it butts the residential?
It's the residential and commercial. I believe there's actually exemption for I-1 areas as far as depending on their level of road that it butts up to. I'd have to see what level that is. I don't remember. I want to say it's exempt from local roads. It may have to be screened from an arterial, like the truck route. I'm rusty on that part of it.
So at the very least, 3 sides have to be shielded.
Yes, that's correct. Yep. And part of this is when you see I-1, like our industrial park and areas like that, where it's industrial, then you can store your materials and equipment outside because the whole area is industrial. But definitely once we get to that line where we're changing uses, we have to have that screening in place.
So the properties on Sixth Street, that's industrial? I mean, the businesses on Sixth Street?
There's a number of them, yep. When you're traveling west on 6th from Maine, once you clear that neighborhood area that's right up along 6th Street.
By the railroad tracks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Once you get past that, it's almost all industrial, all the way up to you hit Township Village, where it goes back to residential. You've got the fire station, the school, the neighborhood. So it's a pretty long stretch where it's industrial, and all that industrial goes north. We've got areas along 4th Street. We also have areas on South Vine Street down there where you can really tell the difference between driving down South Main and South Vine Street, the storefronts versus the industrial areas and stuff like that. Butler REC, even though they have a nice looking building up front. Thanks, Dave.
Didn't I read somewhere in this that to put in any kind of house or anything running a sewer line?
Yep, I do reference that in there. So along Vine Street, there's 2 sewer lines, and they're 2 different types. The easternmost one is called the forced main. That's not one that can be tapped by anyone along Vine Street. It's under high pressure. The western side of Vine Street, it's in the center, but west of the forced main, is a gravity main sewer line. So one challenge to anyone developing this lot at all is accessing that forced main for the sewer line, because at that point you have to work with us, the state, cut the road, reroute traffic on the truck route, which is like a state recognized truck route, and access that. It's the lot to the south is triangular there at the northeast corner of Vine and East 4th. We have people interested in that all the time, and once they find out about the sewer line, they usually just move on. So it's a challenge to developing that lot, whatever the use may be.
The lot that's been for sale for some time?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Sewer-
It's the same situation with the sewer line.
And what is it zoned?
It's I-1, the gray. It's at 4th and Vine, the top right there.
Right.
Yeah. And that lot's also tricky because it has an old right-of-way that feeds up to Robbie Pollard's house and the other home back there. So.
Oh.
But that lot is another topic with its own issues. So.
Okay.
But it has the same, that's part of the reason that lot's had trouble developing, and this one, is that sewer line. With Butler IC, Mr. Stewart, did you guys access that sewer line, right?
Yes.
Okay, was that pretty challenging financially, or?
It certainly added a premium, but
Okay.
in the context of what was being built, very necessary. Gave the owner all new lines and taps out to the main, which was something they'd struggled with for decades in that previous building. So,
Does that help answer your question?
Well, any kind of building you put up is gonna have a bathroom or restroom in it.
Just about
So
anything
It's
that's
not
up there.
really, it doesn't really, it's gonna be an issue if it's I-1 or stays R1. It really shouldn't have any impact on this, I don't think.
Sure.
You know, it will, because a commercial building, you're not gonna have all the expense of a residential. Yeah, you're still gonna have to run the same sewer line, but who's gonna wanna build a house back behind a bunch of shopping centers and storage units? Why not put the land to use instead of having an empty lot?
That's fine, I'm just saying the cost of that sewer tap is gonna be the same if it's residential or industrial.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Any discussion?
Mr. Shivers, remind me, I think also I-1 requires site plan review by you and others in your department.
Yes, sir.
So, plenty of process to go. It's not under our purview, but.
Right, that is correct. The zoning ordinance lays out a few different site plan processes depending on if you're building commercial or industrial. If you build a house today, you can submit a simple site plan and building plans for a building official, but once it becomes industrial, you have to meet a whole different long list of criteria that you must submit for the engineer to review, for I review it, our building official reviews it for the codes, our fire marshal reviews it. It's a whole different beast, so yeah.
Grading and drainage.
Right, yes, there's a whole lot more review.
Do we have a motion?
I move to recommend approval of case number 18-02-RAZ, an application by Brandon Everson to rezone 600 North Vine Street from R1 Low Density Residential District to I1 Light Industrial District for reasons stated in staff recommendations and heard at this public meeting.
I second it.
Thank you. Roll call vote?
Commissioner Leeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaren,
No.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Tetrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
That is 6-1 to recommend approval. And like the others, I will give you a call once we have that date set.
Item 4, old business.
We do have a few more things. I would like to pose the question to you guys. I really hate to revisit this first item. The motion was made to approve the South Emporia accessory building, and it failed 3-4. Typically, I like to ask to do the motion to deny it then, because the motion failed. I didn't catch that in the moment. Would you guys be interested in doing that correct motion to get it on the record right? Or is that going to be...
Didn't I read it out? I recommend it now.
Right, so it was to recommend approval, what I wrote down, but 4 people voted no and 3 voted to support the approval. Was what I had down.
I think that's fine.
The motion was
Okay.
denial, but you didn't, you
Yeah,
wrote down.
he said to deny it.
Oh, okay, well then, I guess I just read my notes wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
He said to deny,
Okay.
and then we all voted for that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I read my notes wrong. I apologize,
So
guys.
the yes votes were in support of the denial. vote.
Right, yes.
Okay.
I think you're talking about 2 different items, aren't you?
I have
You're
so many
talking
notes
about-
on my page.
You're
I will
talking
get
about
back.
Emporia, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm talking about
That's the
Emporia.
first item.
Yes. I will look at the minutes tomorrow. I will sort it out.
And I move to approve that.
Okay, thank you for humoring me, guys. All right, we only have a few minor items left. The deadline is passed for a September meeting, so we will not be meeting next month. At our last meeting that we had a quorum, we discussed electing a new chairman and vice chairman for the board. Mr. Stewart recommended that we hold off until we have 6 or more people present to make that decision. So, if now is a good time for you guys, if you want to discuss who you might be interested in, and then at that point, just make a motion to, I guess, nominate a chairman and vice chairman for the next year. We try to have a new chairman or vice chair, or at least cover the topic every time we have new members, which is also a great time to tell you that Dan Bullock's place has been filled by Scott Hackler. He was just recently appointed, so he will be at our next meeting. So if you guys want to discuss the chairman or the vice chairman, or...
I make a move that Mr. Tetrick be new chairman and Mr. Stewart be vice chairman. That's a motion.
There's a motion.
Second.
That was fast.
I thought you were gonna start arguing. I was gonna get the second out there really quick.
I'm not sure what just happened.
We didn't even have to arm wrestle or anything, like last time.
We have a motion and a second.
Do we need a voice vote, or?
I don't think so. All those approved, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Very good. Okay.
Congratulations, Kelly. All right, next item, just briefly. We've been getting a lot more interest in tiny homes, which we just roughly define as homes below 800 square feet down to 400 square feet. Right now, our building code sets out minimums. There's no minimum home size, but there's minimum sizes for living spaces, kitchen spaces, utility spaces, things of that nature. All this is on here for to let you know that that's something that we're starting to look into. As far as if there's any tweaks that might need to be made to the ordinances, since there's a lot more interest in these days, this is information that I'll bring to you guys at a normal meeting after the agenda items have passed, just to discuss, think about. Same thing with shipping containers. They're a lot easier to get a hold of. price-wise, access-wise. There's a lot more interested in people that would rather put one of those in their backyard rather than 12 by 12 shed with walls and a normal roof. So that's another topic that we're researching to see what other cities are doing, how they're handling it, and how it's working out. So those two topics are something that we'll do some research in on the staff side, and we'll bring in at the end of future meetings to discuss, see if it's worth changing anything, or go from there. Let's see here. Just to recap, the meeting last month was canceled. We didn't have a quorum. We didn't have enough people here. Follow up on a couple items from the meeting before that. The 105 South race, that was Judas Durant's 8-foot fence. You guys recommended approval. It was approved by the city commission at the next meeting. And
They've started putting that up.
I don't know if they started.
Yeah, it's.
You've seen it? Okay.
They've got the west side done.
Yeah, I saw a post earlier today on the north side of that.
Post on the north side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look like they're awful small.
What's that? Those lots?
Between the street and the fence, look like an awful small area.
So it's just gonna be, it's just gonna be yard, isn't it?
But it's a bigger yard than they had though, and that's why they
Yeah.
asked for it. And the second item at the June 28th meeting was of course the Emporia Street one. That's bouncing around the boards. So that will go to city commission, and I will let you guys know what happens there. So with that, that's everything I have.
We have a motion for adjournment
So we adjourn.
Second.
and a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries and meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys.